Hello, everyone. Welcome to this solo episode of the Stream of Art podcast. It is just me here today, Michelle. And if you are listening to this episode and you've never listened to any of our previous episodes before, my name is Michelle Monette. My co-host, Robyn Lester, isn't here today. We are on a hiatus for the foreseeable future. But I wanted to hop on and talk about some things I've been working on, some things I've been thinking about. If you don't know me, I am a musician. Specifically, I'm a guitarist and a singer-songwriter. And I'm also an educator, and I'm now moving into mentorship of musicians as well. So that's something I'm going to be talking about in this episode today. I think I might do these every so often. I don't know how regular this will be. I'm not planning on any kind of a concrete release schedule at this point. I'm still very much playing with operating from a place of more flow, more intuitiveness. And this has just been something that's been popping into my head for the last few weeks. One of the things I love about doing the podcast is having a place to just play with ideas when they're still in their early stages. So before I've really had a chance to write about it or, even teach it, some of these ideas I haven't even really begun teaching yet. This is how deep some of this goes and how new some of this is. So I thought, well, the platform is still here. I might as well just pop into Ableton and record a little something. And once that idea popped into my head, I had all these other ideas. So no promises, but I think you might be hearing from me again sooner rather than later. So for today, I want to talk a bit about musical flourishing. And as well, I want to explore a little bit about my new music mentorship. They are deeply intertwined, so it'll be helpful if I explain my thoughts around musical flourishing first, I think. So anybody who's been listening to the podcast for a while knows I've been working on something I've been calling Build a Musical Life or Building a Musical Life. And what that is it's a 4-pillar framework. It was 3, but it's now evolved. And I think its final form is this 4-pillar framework. Build a Musical Life was a term that really felt right. I remember coming up with it, writing it in my journal 3.5 years ago. And that really stuck because to me at the time, it really encompassed what I was finding in my own journey to heal my relationship with music, which if anybody's interested in reading about that in more depth, I'll include a link to a blog post I wrote about how I healed my relationship with music in the show notes. But just as a quick overview, I hit this point several years ago where I was really deeply unhappy with my musical experience. And at the time, music was my lifeline. It was the thing that was saving me. So for it to suddenly be the source, or not so suddenly, it was, I had that moment of realization, but of course it happened slowly over time. But I had that moment of realizing it was now this source of so much stress and anxiety and disappointment and frustration. And I was desperate to find a way to turn that around. I was never going to give up on music. That was just never the case. Music is my calling. It is what I'm here to do. I have no doubt about that. So it meant that I had to figure out how to turn things around. And thus began this journey of really, I'll say it's an ongoing journey. I'm definitely in a much better place now, but I'm 8 years in and I'm still learning, I'm still exploring, but basically I had to rebuild my whole musical experience from the ground up. And so everything I learned throughout that journey, starting from, 2017, but really I'm also taking everything I learned, from the beginning of my musical journey back in 2001. But really the bulk of what was helpful was everything I discovered from 2017 on, as I slowly made changes, made adjustments that went beyond my experience or went beyond the specifics of music. So yes, I definitely had to address the musical aspects and, in terms of the kinds of things I was working on, where I was placing my focus, those sorts of things. But actually, a lot of what really made a positive impact was all the stuff that wasn't music related. It was adjusting my mindset. It was developing better, healthier habits within the rest of my life. It was actually about exploring other areas of my life. So that's really what I want to bring into what I'm doing. Again, that'll come a little bit later. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but the original idea of Build a Musical Life was to reflect the fact that not only are we wanting music to be, for those of us who are musicians and who deeply care about music and who feel that pull to music in one way or another, how we want to have music not just be an afterthought or like a little thing we tuck into the corner of our life. Like, it's actually a part of our lives in a meaningful way. And we are really designing a life that will support that, not a life that is all about that. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but a life that supports musical growth, musical exploration, creativity. And I also wanted to emphasize the fact that it's something we build. It's not something that just happens by accident. We actually have to be quite intentional about what we're doing so that we can have the experience we want with music. So that's where that term came from. I felt like it was a good reflection of moving beyond just the musicness of it. Although I love to nerd out about music related things, but I was really interested in how do we make music this sustainable part of our lives where there is growth, because that is important. If you're a musician, you want to be getting better because it makes the whole experience more fun, but in a way that's sustainable. That doesn't mean discarding the other parts of your life, as I did. It doesn't mean working yourself to the point of burnout like I did. There's so much to it. So that was the term that stuck for a while. I was finding it felt there's something missing. It wasn't really describing. It was describing the process or the method, but it wasn't really describing the outcome in the way I wanted. And several months ago, as I was journaling, the term musical flourishing popped into my mind, and I wrote it down immediately in my journal. And that just felt like the thing that explains how I feel in my musical experience right now. I feel like I'm flourishing as a musician. And I'm still trying to more clearly define what that means. I like to be very specific. I really value clarity. So I'm spending some time trying to define, the different elements, like what are the things that really make me feel like I'm flourishing. But at this point, just to give a quick sort of broad brushstroke about what I mean, it's really about the experience, like the sort of state of being and the whole experience. It's like how I feel in my experience as a musician. And it's not about perfection. It's not about things going right all the time. I'm actually going through a bit of a season right now where I can feel myself getting ready to pivot maybe not in a new direction, but I feel my attention wanting to go in different directions, and I'm not quite sure where that is yet. So I don't consider this period of my life to be one where I'm flourishing any less, because I understand the rhythm of the musical experience. And I think that's a big part of it. It's that I understand and I'm able to honor the flow of the musical life, which is very much like the rest of our lives. I really believe you can't separate the two. Your life and your musical life, they are so deeply intertwined. Everything you do relative to your life is going to impact your music, and everything you do within your musical life is going to impact the rest of your life. And I still feel like I'm flourishing because I know who I am as a musician. I know what I want. I have this clarity of vision. I know what I'm working toward, generally speaking. I'm willing to let that change as I evolve as a person and a musician. But ultimately, I know I'm on the right musical path for me. So there's a sense of ownership there. That's definitely part of it. So I feel like everything I work on is for me. It's to support the music that I feel within me. I have this scaffolding that I've built, these systems and strategies and approaches and these mindsets that are helping me bring the music within me out, up and out and into the world. Even if at this point it's really just existing in the world of my little music space, making all these projects in Ableton, but that's the first step, right? And whether you want to share music with other people or not is really not the point. You don't need to by any stretch. If you're just doing it for yourself, that's valuable and that's something to know. But the idea is that I have a sense of ownership over my direction and over how I get there as well. And there's so much to this. This is why I think I want to keep coming back and doing some episodes, because this is massive. There's so much to it. And this is an easy way for me to help to shake some of the stuff out of my mind, because otherwise I'm carrying this in my head or in, the several Google Docs I have on the topic. Yeah, ultimately that's the transformation. That was the transformation for me. It was going from floundering to flourishing as a musician. It was going from trying to be somebody I wasn't and desperately trying to catch up with other people who I felt behind, to where I'm now just going my own way, doing my own thing, making my own music, and working at a pace that works for me. I went from constantly burning myself out to now being at a place where I know the rhythm of my body and my brain. And so I'm able to actually structure my time and my routines in a way that's naturally leveraged or naturally supported by the times of day when I have the most energy, also the times, just throughout the week, throughout the month, all of that. I'm not fighting myself anymore, and I'm actually getting much better results. I'm practicing less, but my results are much better because I'm actually engaging in this leveraged practice time where I'm making the most of when I'm at my best. And I'm also, there's so much more, but I'm also using, my understanding now of how best to approach practice for different things. And again, that's its own thing entirely. But the main thing to keep in mind is that I'm just in a much better place with my music. And that's what I want for every musician. I want every musician who feels that call, because not every musician is going to want that. There are plenty of people who want to engage with music on a bit more of a kind of casual surface level, and that's absolutely fine. I think that's part of it is knowing what you want. But I've had these students over the years who come to me and they want more. And I know they want more. That they talk about how they feel the music in them and how they long to express it, and they just don't have the skill set to do that. And it's those musicians I feel the most called to work with, because that I resonate with that. That was me at 15, almost 16 years old, having that knowing that music is something for me. It's my calling. It's what I'm here to do. But you don't have to become a professional musician for you to have that feeling and for you to act on that feeling. You get to decide what that looks like for you in your life. And that's the direction I want to take my mentorship. So I'll talk a bit about that as well, because I've been playing with, so I've been teaching lessons, traditional music lessons for 11, 12 years now. It's 12, almost 13 years now. And that worked great for a long time. But as I was finding all of these new tools and strategies and mindsets from outside the world of music, as I started using them in my own life and finding how much it amplified the richness of my musical experience, I wanted to bring that in to my lessons. And I tried to do that at points, and some people were receptive and others weren't, and that's fine. And this is what led me to consider doing lessons and coaching. So for a while I was offering lessons or coaching or a combination of the two. And the coaching was a little bit more centered around all of this other stuff. It's about the scaffolding, the strategies, all of that. It's about building that foundation for musical thriving, flourishing, for a musical life. And that ultimately didn't feel right either, because what I've learned again is that you really can't separate the two, or I didn't want to separate the two, because I felt like when I was teaching lessons, I was leaving so much on the table that would have been so helpful for them. And again, I would often offer, to give them strategies to help with, from habit building to routine building, all the stuff that I know has helped me actually put into practice all of the wonderful musical things I've learned over the years. And again, there was just a disconnect. And again, this might just be me. I'm sure there are plenty of teachers out there teaching traditional lessons or just music lessons or whatever, however you want to label them, who are able to bring more of this into the mix. But I was finding just within myself, this barrier, because I had this expectation, and I imagined that other people as well, so my students, had an expectation about what lessons are, what they look like, what information you get from them. So that bumping up against those expectations, it hit a point where I had to make a choice about what I was going to do. And I knew I couldn't go back to just doing plain lessons. I know too much. I know too much about how much the other stuff I've learned helps, how much that contributes to musical flourishing. Not just getting a little bit better, not just, being able to learn a few things to impress your friends. Although, again, I think that's completely fine if that's what you want to do. But for the people who feel that call to engage with music in a really deep way, who want it to be a part of their lives, I think they need more. I needed more, and it just wasn't out there. It's just very rare to find a musician talking about the other stuff. Some do, but it's not as common as I think it needs to be, which is why I had to go and find out all of this stuff on my own. I had to experiment. I had to try things. So I want to be able to have that just be baked in with what I do. See, I'm still teaching. I still share all of the best of what I've learned from teaching lessons over the years and from my own musical studies and exploration and all of that. But that's one part of it. It's also about building the scaffolding that's actually going to allow my students to put this stuff into practice. Because that's where things were not quite clicking. You do get some students who just kind of naturally are able to take what you give them and they work on it and they're fine. But so many struggle to get in the consistent practice, to know what to work on. They feel overwhelmed. They're tired. They have other stuff going on. This is maybe less true for younger students, but certainly when I get adults in, they're dealing with a lot more. They have more responsibility. They have more emotional and mental baggage. That's a massive thing that I now explore with students is we work through the things internally that are holding them back from doing the work, as well as building the external scaffolding that's going to help support them, building habits, all of that practical goodness that I love. But it's about blending it with that internal work as well, recognizing that a musician is a human being first and foremost. And what's true of all humans is going to be true of musicians. And when a person is dealing with, whether it's a limiting belief or it's self-doubt or it's fear or they struggle to be uncomfortable, which learning a skill is going to make you uncomfortable because you're going to be faced with your limitations. If they really struggle with that, it doesn't matter who they take lessons from. It doesn't matter where they go. It doesn't matter what they could have the best information in the world relative to what it is they want to learn, but they won't be able to put it into practice. So that's what I want to blend in with what I'm doing. And very specifically to help musicians bring forward their unique music. So I want to approach it in a way that honors the music that the musicians I work with want to create, as well as working with them based on who they are as a person and the experience they want with music as well. So again, that is what musical flourishing comes down to. It's not just the result. Again, that is a really important factor. Like I said, I get much better results from the way I practice and engage with music now. And that is infinitely more satisfying than when I was, practicing like crazy and not really improving in the way I felt like I should be for how much time I was putting in. So that is a part of feeling that satisfaction, but it's not the only thing. There's a satisfaction in doing the work if you approach it the right way. There's a satisfaction in having the initial spark of an idea when you know how to see it through to the end. If you have an idea and you have no idea how you turn that idea into a song or whatever it is you want to create, that is a very frustrating place to be. And again, there's lots of resources out there to help you do that. But how do you put that into practice if you're really struggling with all of these other things? So that's what I'm offering now, mentorship. So that actually brings me to the term mentorship, because I was feeling so limited by lessons, and also the term coaching didn't quite sit right. So mentorship feels much more inclusive. It feels holistic, because that's really what I'm doing, is I'm offering bespoke, holistic music mentorship for musical flourishing. And I'm very, very excited about this new offering. It feels right. It's sort of like when I'm working on a song and I'll be trying some things. I have just a general sense of what I'm going for. And it's just, like try some things, it's not quite clicking. Try some things, it's not quite clicking. And then when it clicks, you just know. I get that a lot with lyrics. I've talked about this before. Lyrics always take me the longest. But when a lyric hits just right, it's like euphoria. That's how I feel about this. This feels like everything I've been trying to build, trying to clarify over the last few years, and it's clicked. And now I feel ready to go forward with it. And I'm excited to not only explore this new level of co-creation with other musicians, this new evolution of my teaching offering into mentorship, but I'm excited to really start sharing these ideas out into the world. Like I said, maybe I didn't say this. Okay, I didn't say this. I'll say it now. I'm beginning to write my blog again. I'm starting to find my voice there, and I'm exploring these ideas in a new way, and it feels right. It feels like things are clicking now. Hence this podcast episode. I just wanted to start getting into the habit of releasing stuff again. Because it's very easy for me to, fall into that inertia, into the rhythm of not putting stuff out. But I really liked putting out my blogs every week, and I liked putting out these episodes. And I figure, I'm just gonna do it. Just got to get started. So here I am. All right, I think that's all. I think that was really it for today. I'm going to keep exploring these ideas. I'll keep working on defining musical flourishing a bit more, because it is the basis of what I'm doing. So for any of you interested in hearing more and hearing that develop, you'll be able to find me on my website. I have my blog hosted there. I also am probably going to start hosting my blog on Substack as well, just to have it there, just in case anybody who wants to read it is already on Substack. It just kind of makes it, one location to read everything that you've subscribed to. And the plan still is to do YouTube. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I feel like I have figured out a format that will keep me from falling into that perfectionism trap again. So you are welcome to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I do have a link down in the show notes if you want to get a jump on that, and keep tabs on how all of this develops. And if you or somebody is interested in exploring mentorship with me, I have a few offers on my website. You can visit michellemonettemusic.com/mentorship. Okay. And that's it. I can't remember how we used to end these episodes. Oh yeah, you can send an email to us at streamofartpodcast@gmail.com. I do still check the email periodically, so it's not dead. It's still up and alive, and you can send questions and comments there. If you just want to contact me directly, you can send an email to michellemonette@michellemonettemusic.com. You can follow me, and you can follow Robyn on Instagram. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram. I'm not particularly active on Instagram right now, although I think that might change. But I'm not sure about Robyn. I'm not sure if she's posting anything these days. The podcast hasn't been posting anything because, again, we've been on a hiatus, but feel free to check that out if you want anyways. And thank you for listening. I will catch you in likely another solo episode before too long. Bye.